Welcome to the Newman Crows Landing Unified School District Board meeting for March 14th. Would you please stand and say the flag salute? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As of now, we have nothing to report out of closed session. Public communication, agenda and non-agenda items. Any person wishing to comment on agenda and non-agenda items may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name. It would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes. California law prohibits the school board from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the board. Per board policy BB 9323, individual speakers may be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board may limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation, depending on the topic and number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons may speak only if they have something to add. If you would like to speak to the board, we have some forms to fill out. May I please have Mr. Hugh Costa? Mr. Costa, thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
So the reason I came before you today was first to compliment. I come from Modesto City Schools for 20 years. And my kids have been to dozens of schools, and nothing Modesto is doing is anywhere near running as well as Newman School District, whether it's the food, the teachers, the way they're organized. So first of all, I'll take a couple of seconds for that.
Thank you.
The one thing I did want to bring up, and it's more of not for my son as an 8th grader. I don't have any children who could be in YOLO going forward, but so that other teachers and other parents and students have a consistent experience between YOLO and Stigma, to have, no matter whom the principal is, for them to have a structure so that there's a consistent onboarding between YOLO and Stigma. It seems like sometimes it's been described to me, and Mr. Posey spent some time telling me why it's a middle school, not a junior high, so I don't need to get into that. But so whether it's called a promotion or whatever it is, whether there's a gown or not, for there to be consistency. Sometimes it's a t-shirt, sometimes it's not. The kids look forward to this. My junior high student put it to me like this. He said, Dad, this is a center point between my plan to go to college and starting school. So this does matter to me. I don't want some t-shirt and just be shuffled on my way. Actually, in previous years, one of the principals didn't want to do anything at all. So that kind of broke my heart. I graduated from Stigma and YOLO. And so I wanted my kids to have a similar experience. So I even described it to Mr. Posey as, can you imagine a wall of all the kids that have their graduation thing, and then my kid at the end has a t-shirt? It just looks really weird. There's no consistency or legacy to it. So I just wanted to make sure that there was some kind of a plan so that whatever they work out, that it has a consistency for the kids, so they have that to look forward to. And the last little bit is, any child that wasn't able to do the promotion, they have 3 years and all kinds of community support to do after school programs, summer school, and above and beyond all that stuff. The state of California allowed them to go back during pandemic, if that was one of the reasons, and go ahead and get a credit, no credit. So there was zero excuse for any parent not to be aware of whether their child was going to graduate or not, just to squash that before anyone brings that up. So that's all that I had in my little concise amount of time, that somebody make a consistent plan, that no matter who is in charge of YOLO, that those kids come across with their families, and that there's better communication with the parents and the students, not the decisions made just by principals and teachers, because our families, these are our kids, and we care and want to be part of the process. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. Sandy Salerno. Sandy. Is it Salerno or Solano?
Solano. Yeah. I'm here with you talking about the same issue as well. We had a parent square that was issued by the principal of YOLO to go to a meeting as an 8th grade parent. There are about 30 parents there, ranging from probably, this is my fourth child. I graduated from YOLO in 85. Hugh and I were in the same class. From all the way to parents' first child there, second child in the district since they grew up, a lot of range of parents. And the parents were so upset because when the teachers started talking about getting away from doing any graduation or promotion, the traditions like of the gown and all that, getting rid of the 8th grade trip, a lot of the parents were really upset. It seems to be rectified as far as the 8th grade trip since then. Graduation or promotion, whatever you want to call it, I believe is still going on. We're going to do gowns and not caps. But it's hard because as a parent, you're expecting this, and we come and go with new superintendents, new teachers, new admins who might be involved, might not be, and they want to come in and do something new. Part of the big draw coming to our community is because we're a small community, we have traditions in place. People look forward to that. And when every year it's going to be a struggle to get those traditions back in place the way they were, it's too stressful for the parents, for the kids. It just doesn't work. In our latest parent square, it mentioned having YOLO promotion in the gym. I don't know if you guys are aware, when they have rallies at the gym, I believe they fill the gym with just student body. When they do them at the amphitheater, they have to do 2 sessions because they can't fit the whole entire student body at the amphitheater. We have 289 graduating students from YOLO. There's going to be no way that we would fit in either of those locations. The high school is set up for graduation already. They come and set it up for YOLO. It's used for the high school with a couple little tweaks, and it's good to go. So I believe that we should still be doing it there. It's tradition. I think we should still have it there. I guess that's it. Yeah, I guess that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Receiving some information.
Uh-huh.
Part of the problem is that horrible COVID that's been around, and number-wise, we have to keep following state mandates. Now we think we are pretty much where we're supposed to be, and you will be hearing more information. That will be, right on time.
Okay. Well, to issue the COVID thing, we'll be outside. It'll be way better than
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
But and like you said, there's like 1,000 people. Once there's 1,000 people, it has to be outside.
Yeah. And today was wonderful without masks at school today. COVID is out. We're done.
Thank you, Mrs. Slaughter. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the board? Do we have any? No more. Okay, thank you. We appreciate your input, and we're taking it in. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
May I offer an amendment to their
wait a minute.
motion, please?
Well, I apologize.
If you would accept it, Rose, I would like to amend that motion to remove item J in the consent, making that item 12 in action items. If you're willing to accept that amendment.
Yes, I am.
We have 2 others. Other ones.
There is another change, but that happens at the item itself. It's on the agenda.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed?
You're welcome.
Okay, action night. Oh, our Stigma girls cross country and basketball team. I hear we have some.
We have champions amongst us.
We do.
It's a great thing. And first, I just want to thank everybody for being here. You talk about COVID being over. It's nice to see a full house at a board meeting again.
It is.
And so I'll take a second out of order to say that. I appreciate everybody.
The board would like to come up.
Absolutely.
Take their
So
lead.
I'm going to turn the mic over to Principal Pruitt, who will introduce, I believe, some coaches
All right.
to get us rolling on our champions.
Yes, it's actually an honor to introduce our 2 coaches. 8 years ago, we had kind of a mess with our basketball program and had to dismiss a coach. And I went to Mr. Felber and I asked him, like, we are in need of some help. And come to find out, that was probably one of the best decisions I ever made. And since then, he and Coach Stevens have been the most successful coaches on our campus, whether it's cross country or basketball, but their winning record, I believe cross country has won league championship the last 3 years in a row. And basketball, their typical record average is about 22-5 each year. So just incredible output by the girls, and they continue to dominate every year. So Coach Felber and Coach Stevens.
All right. Well, thank you for having us. I know the girls worked really hard. It's nice to see them get honored. We really appreciate it. You have anything you want to say? No. I'm supposed to introduce them to you. So let's start with cross country. Oh, okay. Oh, you want me to just send them up one at a time then? Okay, we'll do that. But yeah, thank you again. We really appreciate being here. They worked really hard. The girls, for cross country, there's not a lot of people that sign up for a sport where you have to run. You know, usually in other sports, you get in trouble and you run, but they sign up for it. So I think they're a special group of girls, and they represent our school well at all the meets. And it's nice to see them win. We've also had some of them snag some MVPs away from some other people that were supposed to win them right at the end. So they definitely represent us well. And the girls basketball team had a great year this year. We won a home playoff game, actually handily. All right. They did really well, earned a home playoff game, won it. Got to the second round, didn't quite go the way we wanted to, but they represented you guys well also. And I think that the people they played against are going to remember Orastimba. So good job, ladies.
We'll say one thing. All right.
I knew.
Yeah, the mic freaks me out though. I'm just going to talk. Hopefully you can hear me. I think it's important. We do win a lot of games, but we focus really on helping these girls win in life. And that's what we're most proud of. We have goals set for them every year. And by the time they graduate, individually and collectively, and they meet them every time. And so I'm just so very proud. There you go.
All right, let's start with our cross country champions. You guys can just come up because I'm not, some of them had softball practice. It looks like they made it. Some of them, I don't know who made it. Some of them didn't quite get here from practice. So I'll announce you when you walk up. Go ahead. We'll start with Champ Beth. That's Lisbeth Aguilar. And then we got Hannah Champa Star. And the other Hannah Champa staff. Oh, are we keeping them up here or do you just want? Okay, you guys can just circle back. That was Hannah Taft. Sorry, I coughed during her last name. And then we got Maddie Oliveira Champ. And which other champs are here? Champty, Shakti Artea. And then we got Tay Champ over there, Taylor Gray. And Reagan Champakeen, Marrakeen. All right. Is that all my cross country people? Okay. All right. Thank you, cross country girls. And then we've got our girls basketball team. You may have heard of this one before. This is Reagan Champakeen. And another new one, Taylor Champgray. Jocelyn Sotelo, Champello. Champiera Thibodeau. By the way, Reagan and Sierra were also the league co-MVPs this year. Grace McChampy, Macaulay. Kelsey Champigna. Janessa Champanzales. I got to work on that one. And Champlin Stevens. Kaylin. I miss any? I think that's it for them, right? All right. Thank you again. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you.
That's an amazing feat, especially with what's happened with COVID and everything. Congratulations to all of you, and also to your parents for taking you and bringing you back and forth. Thank you. Alexia. Oh.
Hi, guys. So good afternoon now with the whole daylight change. But hi, students. This is like one of the only times I get to see you guys. You guys need to come more often. Come on. So for the past month, there's been a lot at Stigma, campus life. This is especially seen with our extracurriculars. Not only is the NAMI club here, but we have our sports people here. So, they've been very, very active. So for sports, boys volleyball is going on, boys golf, tennis, wrestling, cross country. Boys volleyball actually won their first game, which was against Gostine, which is really cool. Yeah. And so our girls basketball team in February, who are here today, they had their playoff game the 17th where they beat Escalon, and then they moved on in the 21st. They outmatched, but they played really hard. I went to one of their games, and like the whole time I was at the edge of my seat. They're amazing. Oh my gosh. And like the student involvement was really prominent with our basketball team, because we even had a group of students who went on a separate bus to support the team, like as a zoo on their away game. So it just proves just how amazing they are. Oh, we love them. And so for our clubs, the NAMI club is here today. And like they were very active the whole entire year, but they were very active the past month as well. They collaborated with the Women's Organization for Women's Empowerment, where they had an Invest in Me youth conference, where they learned about self-investment, relationship building, and even finances. The NAMI Club has also collaborated with the Interact Club and did the Read Across American Elementary Schools. The Anime Club, which is a new club that is on campus, has been having meetings to vote in officers. The FAST Club had an Escape the Vape event during lunch Wednesday the 23rd, where a lot of students did obstacle courses just to kind of learn the negative effects of vaping. FFA had their Advanced Parley Pro team place 4th at the regional contest Friday the 25th, and they're going to be heading to their state contest at the end of this month in Sacramento, and we wish them luck. The Student Council focused their efforts on hosting a Black History Month celebration day and saying quotes in the announcements every day during the month of February, paying homage to the month. They even hung up posters after school. And for the International Women's Month, they have been doing the same. And so for Winter Garden Percussion, they actually had their first competition Saturday, and it went really well. So last month as well, the NCLUSD Musical Theater had their opening night for The Lightning Thief, and they had 2 showings for 2 weekends, which went really great. Our drama department does a really great job every year. If you guys went to go see it, it was amazing. And so seniors had a very eventful month as well. So they took their panoramic pictures, and for the past month, they've also been taking their Hall of Fame pictures for the yearbook. Students are also getting more experience when it comes to work environments and scenarios when it came to their economics project. So students had to dress formally and present on how they would financially manage a food court, which was really funny to see just random students in tuxes and dressed so formally walking across campus and like speed walking to class and like looking at their notes. And they also have to do that again in like this month, I believe, when it comes to their senior project. They have to have like a mock interview. It's gonna be really funny because a lot of people are buying like their ties and stuff. And like, does this color look on me good on me? Like, do I look formal? And so with this entire process, like, I just want to give a really huge thank you to our counselors, because they've been hosting workshops and they've been having meetings to help students with these endeavors. And at the same time, they're still helping students apply to college and filling out their FAFSA. And so with all this at the school, a new tardy policy or the same tardy policy we had a few years ago was put in place just for more organization and discipline. And so this is just reimposed so that teachers and students have an easier time with their learning environments and just to keep more organization on campus. And so as we know, today was the optional day for people to wear masks or not at school. And I went around my study hall just asking students what their thoughts were on it. And I think my favorite comment was someone was explaining how the mask would mess with their beard growth. So they're just very glad to have it optional because now they could grow their facial hair better. And and I just, the students make me so proud because when they were explaining their different opinions, they were very respectful of each other. They would just sit there and speak with each other and understand that everybody has different opinions. And my heart was swelling with pride. I was like, yes, you guys are great. And so overall, there's been a lot of stuff on campus, and there will also continue to be a lot of stuff in the future. So thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me.
Thank you, Alexi. You always give such a good report and keeps us really informed as far as what the school has been doing. I have the Mental Health Awareness Month proposal. Ooh.
That's me. And all of them too.
Oh, okay. Do you want to stand up so everyone can see your?
They're gonna come up here because they have a whole little
good.
slideshow to show you guys.
Okay.
Oh, God. Yeah, you got the power. You're good. So I'm Brittany. I'm one of the advisors for Simba's NAMI Club. My other advisor down over there, Miss Julia Ginniga. And unfortunately, our third advisor could not be here tonight, Jeremy Pinelli. But we brought basically our entire club, and they are very excited to talk to you guys, but very nervous. So please be nice to them. Like, they do their best. But they're here to talk to you guys about May and how May is designated as Mental Health Awareness Month. And so it is our hope that we can designate it the same in our district for, I thought I was taller. For all of our sites. So I'll go ahead and let them come up here. Not all of them are comfortable to talk, so they might just kind of join a little group down here, but you guys ready?
Who's first?
Whoever wants to go first.
Okay. So as Brittany said, we're trying to make May Mental Health Awareness Month district-wide, just to spread awareness for kids that aren't very open about it, so they can be more comfortable in a safer environment. All right. As that's a group photo, and you know how people are far away from the photo, that's actually symbolism, hopefully, for people that are far away, but we're still representing that we're here for them, you know?
Oh, okay. Hello, I'm Susanna from NAMI Club, and I'm going to be reading the slides for you guys today. One of the people that we're going to read slides for you today. OHS NAMI History, September Suicide Prevention and Awareness, Suicide Walk, NAMI Barbecue, Crisis Hotline Signs and Facts, Collaborative Whiteboard in the Library. So a lot of these things are what we did throughout the year. I would say that I have never been in a club before, but I can really preach for this one and vouch for this one because I feel like I've never done this before. I've never talked in front of people, and it's really helped me to get me outside of my comfort zone and really make me a better person and evolve as a person. And the Suicide Walk was very fun. We got to talk to a lot of people. We got to experience other people's situations and how everything just comes together and a lot of other things that we did. So, thank you.
Okay, so hi, I'm Tatiana Veloz. So another thing we did for the club, during October, we focused much on stigma. And so we did a bulletin board and then chalk art, which we had other people collab in our group. And after school, we would go and write like inspirational quotes and stuff on the chalkboard to make other people feel welcomed and feel more comfortable in their environment.
Let's see.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. So in November, it was a less busy month compared to especially like September, but we did a big event with the friendship bracelets for students. And that was honestly really fun. That was great. But honestly, let's see, December, we focused more on families and mental health. So we did cards and gifts for, I can't read that word, convalescent hospital. There you go. I can read that one. Okay. Is that next? Who? Someone want to go?
All right. So in January, we kind of pushed in with a whole bunch of groups to some teachers that were curious and starting a conversation. And so we went in and had a couple of forums on like, what do you think about Orstemba? What do you think about the culture? What do you guys want to see? How do you feel in the bathrooms? How do you feel in these classrooms? And it was actually a really cool kind of give and take. In February, we focused on mental health and culture. And so we talked about how some cultures are underserved, how they have some medical disparities, different kinds of treatments. We also attended the Youth Empowerment Conference in Patterson, like Alexa said. And so they sat and learned about healthy relationships, which we learned more about today as well, finances, self-empowerment. One more thing, but it was great. They had fun. So this month we're focusing on mental health. We did Read Across America. We've talked about doing some yoga activities during lunch, and whoever does it the whole week will have self-care kits. We're here talking to you, of course. We're also doing a relationship training. We're still kind of planning the next couple of months. And during April, we have that spring break, and we know a lot of our students aren't as comfortable at home as they are on campus. So we're going to try to figure out something to make sure they have access to crisis lines, different supports that they can take home as well. And then in May, we're hoping, of course, to make it Mental Health Awareness Month and help the other sites in the district celebrate that as well. Anybody else? Yeah.
You are not alone. 21% of US adults experience mental health or mental illness in 2020. That's 52.9 million people. 5.6% of US adults experienced serious mental illness in 2020. That's 14.2 million people. 16.5% of US youth aged 6 to 17 experienced a mental health disorder in 2016. That's 7.7 million people. And students aged 6 to 17 with mental, emotional, or behavioral concerns are 3 times more likely to repeat a grade. 70% of youth in the juvenile justice system have a diagnosable mental health condition. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among people aged 10 to 34 in the United States. 90% of people who die by suicide had shown symptoms of a mental health condition. Lesbian, gay, and bisexual youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than straight youth. 21% of low-income children and youth ages 6 to 17 have mental health disorders. 50% of children and youth in the welfare system have mental health disorders. Oh, what is that? There's our little banner. Okay. Join us in creating a stigma-free district. Stigma.
Stigma. Stigma is the negative attitudes and inaccurate beliefs about people who have mental health conditions. Stems from myths, inaccurate perceptions, and lack of information. Why is stigma a problem? It prevents people from seeing the treatment and getting support that they need. It causes discrimination in jobs, education, housing, and medical care, and it is experienced by 90% of people with a mental health condition. Stigma can be worse than living with a mental health condition itself.
May has been recognized as Mental Health Awareness Month in the US since 1949. It was founded and raised It founded and raise awareness and educate the public about mental illness and reducing the stigma surrounding mental illnesses. Did you know that 1 out of 5 people experienced a mental health condition? This may be you. Oh. Thank you. This may be you, a friend, or family member.
How can I help someone experiencing suicidal feelings? Try not to judge. Talk to the person about how they feel. Encourage them to get help. Ask them how you can help. Help them stay safe. Learn more about mental health. Know the facts. Mental health conditions can affect anyone. Get perspective on people's lived experiences. Learn from reliable sources. Okay. Know the 10 common warning signs. 1, feeling very sad or withdrawn for more than 2 weeks. 2, trying to harm or kill oneself or making plans to do so. Severe out of control risk-taking behaviors that can cause harm to self or others. 4, sudden overwhelming fear for no reason. 5, not eating, throwing up, or using laxatives to lose weight, significant weight loss or weight gain. 6, seeing, hearing, or believing things that are not real. 7, repeated use of drug or alcohol. 8, drastic changes in mood, behavior, personality, or sleeping habits. 9, extreme difficulty concentrating or staying still that puts a person in danger or causes school failure. 10, intense worries or fears that get in the way of daily activities. A stigma-free district starts with us. Together, we can create.
We're asking you to designate May in NCLUSD as Mental Health Awareness Month in perpetuity. Did I say that right? Hope so. Perpetuity, sorry. Join OHS NAMI in wearing green for mental health every Thursday throughout the year. Work with OHS NAMI to encourage stigma-free campuses. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you give me what NAMI stands for as far as each letter has a specific?
Yes, so NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. I'm really pleased that you have a club like this, and I'm glad that it's open, and I hope everybody feels free to go to it. You sound like a group of people that I would love to have been in school with, because a lot of people, whether or not your hair is cut the wrong way or you wear your clothes differently than everybody else, they get picked on. So I'm glad. And I think Newman does a pretty good job, but I hope to join you in the rest of your activities. Thank you.
We would love to have you.
Thank you.
I'd like to say that I would walk around campus. I believe it was in October when you had the chalk. Yeah. That just made me feel better. Honestly, executive assistant would notice it. Even on OHS campus, those chalk things they work. So thank you for doing that, because they're great. And what you guys are doing is making a difference. I appreciate your work.
I'd like to say that I really commend you for coming tonight and sharing. Please stay safe, healthy, well, emotionally and physically.
Thank you very much.
Sean, I assume we'll have an agenda item that we can make a decision about?
Yeah, absolutely. It's action item.
Oh, we've got it tonight. Okay. Honest, I read the agenda.
But you did. I know that. Action item 5 is when you'll.
It's number 5.
And then Ms. Conforti, if you wouldn't mind, we have some students who are probably like to be excused. So.
Boys and girls, if you would like to leave, because I know you have homework, you have other activities to do, we appreciate you being here. And anytime you wish to come to a board meeting, you're welcome to come and give us information. Thank you.
Always our best board meetings. Thank you for coming.
I think you're staying. If you have to go, we understand. Okay. Avid is Mrs. Oh, so now I know someone that's a little shorter than me.
That's me. I'm glad the microphone is flexible.
Right. Thank you.
My name is Arely Donor Chavez. I'm a new learning director at Orest High School, and I'm here to talk to you about AVID. AVID stands for Advancement via Individual Determination.
What a group.
Okay. So our mission statement is to close the opportunity gap that exists by preparing all students for college readiness and success in a global society. So AVID first started as one class in San Diego, which expanded to a program and eventually became a college preparatory system. The ideal way to start is with one AVID class and eventually move along to school-wide strategies. And that's where you see the school-wide approach to curriculum and rigor. It's a support system. So it's support and rigor equals student success. And the target group are low-income underserved students who are first generation, they're the first in their families, maybe to graduate from high school, first in their families to go to college. Is to give them that support and access to rigorous curriculum. Eventually, we want to get our AVID students to access honors and AP courses as juniors and as seniors. It also includes professional development for educators to understand college and career readiness system information like A through G requirements, rigorous curriculum that prepares them for that AP level work. The goals of AVID regarding the college and career readiness system, again, is to provide that foundation and those skills so students have that success. And it's building strong student-teacher relationships. 30% of AVID time is building a sense of community. And it's building that positive peer group so they form a sense of family. Ideally, we want them to stay together and graduate together as a class. And I love that last bit where it says it develops a sense of hope. And we'll find that, with a lot of AVID graduates, they do have that hope for themselves, their families, and their communities. So the AVID elective student profile. So this is the type of student we're looking for to apply to AVID. It's the middle of the road kiddo between a 2.0 and a 3.5 GPA. They're first in their families again, they want to go to college. And most importantly, they have that desire and determination. So it's individual determination. They want to succeed. And with the right support, they'll get there. And we also included special circumstances. Sometimes students from foster youth programs or from other schools that have had AVID and want to continue with AVID can also be considered to be a part of the AVID elective class. The heart of the curriculum has this acronym WICOR. So you will see AVID curriculum ties to all of these pieces here. There's writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. And a lot of these strategies are already aligned with district initiatives to enhance writing and literacy skills in our students in the district. So we'll find that a lot of these things already go hand in hand with our existing goals. And our hope is to continue to show these strategies and skills to our staff during staff meetings. We had a staff meeting today where we WICOrized explaining WICOR, and it went really well at Orest High School. And we'll be presenting to YOLO in a couple of weeks. It's got more than 30 years of success. It's currently serving more than 2 million students across the country. Again, it started in San Diego, but then it expanded so much because it comes from teachers and educators and students who have succeeded in it. And so they give back. And I included just a snapshot of some research. We know that the funding for AVID, which we're grateful for, is tied to increasing those A through G requirements. And even during the pandemic time, they found that 92% of AVID graduates still met the 4-year college entrance requirements, which, as we know, are the A through G requirements in order to be eligible to apply to a UC or a CSU. And so the data shows that it still maintained strong outcomes across the board from all of our students. And so the lines in blue are your comparing to students who weren't in AVID. The lines in gold are the ones who were in AVID. So they're finding the students who are participating in AVID tend to have those better success rates in high school and retention rates after college. So they continue and persist and complete their college degrees. Our site team, as myself as district director supporting both sites, I come with experience. I was a program manager before this role, supporting 23 school districts in the Bay Area. Our site coordinator will be Mrs. Vargas. Our supporting administrators are Mrs. Esquives and Mr. Pruitt. Our learning director who will be taking the AVID counseling information is Mrs. Rosario Vargas. Our AVID elective teacher is Mrs. Blankenship, and she's here to support. I'm so glad she's here. So she'll be taking on that first AVID 9 class. Our supportive teacher will be Mr. Cothenbutel. Both teachers have AVID training already, so they're very excited to get on board and launch AVID at Oristemba. At YOLO, our site coordinator will be Ms. Macias. Our supporting administrator, who's also in the room, is Mrs. Kay Waggle. Thank you for being here. Our AVID counselor will be Leila Martinez. Our AVID elective teacher will be Mrs. Alarcon, starting with AVID 6. And the supportive teachers will be Ms. Pimentel, Ms. Torres, and Mr. Benson. So these two groups have formed the 2 site teams, and each person has been registered for a different community of practice that's applicable to their role at their site. And our training is in San Francisco. We appreciate the support in this professional development training. We will go to our individual community of practice learning, and then we will come together as site teams to develop site team goals for the new school year. And as a team, we'll continue the cycle of improvement. AVID is about the growth mindset. So we're planning, we're doing, we're studying, and we're acting. So we will revise and change as we need to in order to improve our work and better serve the needs of our students. And there was a video, I'm not sure if there's time. I can't control this clicker. I could go back if there's time. Sure, okay.
Before, I would not even dare think about furthering my education because in the eyes of many, I was just part of the high school dropout statistic.
I thought I could never seriously think about attending college. College was out of my reach.
I live with society's prejudice about my skin color and poverty.
I was told I wouldn't amount to anything and given limits by people saying I would drop out and never graduate.
I am a Haitian American male from a single parent household who has lived in relative poverty.
Feeling alone in a challenging journey is a very, very difficult one. But sometimes the moment when you feel most alone and something unexpected appears to help. That for me was AVID.
Thanks to AVID, I'm able to visualize my future, and that pushes me to do better.
I had to believe in myself, and that's exactly what AVID taught me.
AVID has taught me that coming to school is more than just an exit slip out of high school. It's pushed me to take more rigorous classes to prepare myself for college and a career.
If I wanted to accomplish my dreams, I would have to do it on my own. AVID changed this.
AVID is a family that I could depend on.
I was pushed to become better, and that potential tied up inside me all of these years finally burst through.
AVID was there when I first took on the challenge of AP classes. AVID was there when I went to my first college tour. And AVID was there when I did not know what on earth SATs were.
I made a promise to myself that I would never be a statistic, and thanks to AVID, I'm not.
No matter where you come from, there is always hope in achieving your dreams and obtaining a college education.
I will not be a victim of my circumstances. I will go to college and make my dreams come true.
I have to worry?
about protecting my eyes because my future is extremely bright.
I am a testament to the power of AVID and what the AVID system can do. As a result, I will be attending the University of Notre Dame in pursuit of a biomedical engineering degree.
My amazing AVID family helped me so that no one else can decide my path in life.
Like the name says, I have learned to advance via individual determination.
Because of AVID, I'm limitless.
I have proven my achievement, and because of AVID, I now have a lifelong advantage.
I will be attending the University of California at Santa Cruz to pursue a bachelor's degree in bioengineering.
This fall, I will attend California State University, Long Beach as a presidential scholar in their honors program.
I will defy the odds. I will defy the statistics. And I will advance via my individual determination at Harvard.
Thank you for showing me that I can transcend what society expects of me and become whatever I want to be. Thank you.
So I picked that video because it just shows, a wide variety of students and how AVID impacted them. But there are many videos you can find online. You're more than welcome to take a look, or you can email me and I can send you more research or videos from Summer Institute speakers. And that's what we saw, our Summer Institute speakers. That's the training that happens in July. And it's where students get to share their stories. It's their voices that we want to hear from them. The California snapshot is the attachment that was included with the board materials. You're welcome to look at that, and feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions about AVID and how it will support our district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I would just like to say, first of all, I'd like to thank Adelie. She's done a great job and she's going to be a great director. This was not a top-down decision. We did not go to the sites and say, you're going to do AVID. They came to us and said, can we do AVID? And we are making a commitment, a very strong commitment to stick with it. They've had experiences in the past where we do AVID and then we do pieces of AVID and then we do this part, but not that part. And we're not going to do that. We're going to do AVID and we're going to do it right. So the A through G that you are going to approve tonight, that funding that we got to improve our A through G rates, we're using that to support the AVID initiative. It'll be something we support over the next several years. So you may keep hearing about AVID at board meetings, and our goal is to make sure that it's a full implement. Well, we start slow, we'll implement, but we're not going to all of a sudden decide we're not going to do AVID this year. That's a commitment we're making to the teachers on tape. So we really appreciate all the work that Yolo and Adelie and the teachers are going to put into this initiative.
I'm just really thrilled. I mean, kind of my origin story, why I decided to run and do this is that I saw my daughter succeeding at our schools, but I didn't necessarily see the children of the guys farm workers I have lunch with, their kids weren't necessarily succeeding the same way. And my daughter had the advantage of two college educated adults in her house. And my peers at work don't have that for their kids. And I really feel it's our responsibility. So I'm delighted that we are coming with a program that there's kind of no way that you make that. It's an individual thing that you reach out to a child, but to do this as a district where we set a program in place, I'm looking forward to hearing lots about it and being able to support it as a board member.
Thank you. Mrs. Betancourt, data talk, ready?
So what you're going to be seeing is the results from our second iReady Diagnostic, iReady Diagnostic number 2. I'll kind of review the results, and at the end, you'll see a comparison from iReady Diagnostic 1 to Diagnostic 2. So just a little bit of background. Our first diagnostic was administered in October. I think the window opened October 25th. So the second diagnostic we completed in February. We give about a 2-week window for the sites to complete the diagnostic. I wanted to give you a kind of an idea of what to expect as far as the time between the first and the second. So there's 36 weeks in the school year. We had about 10 weeks between diagnostic and diagnostic 1 and diagnostic 2. Now we've been working very closely with our iReady reps and our PD people, and typically they like 12 weeks in between, but we had a little bit of a late start. So next year we'll have that typical 12 to 14 weeks in between. So what you're looking at is how the work we did in 10 weeks, what our students were able to accomplish in 10 weeks and teachers. So working with our reps, they said for 10 weeks, we should expect about 33% growth. That's about a third of the year. So with that in the back of your mind, and get to the next. Where am I pointing back there? Oh, yeah. So you're going to see a couple of graphs or a couple of charts. There's 2 ways that we look at data in iReady. One is a growth model. So we look at how much growth students or sites or classrooms have made. And then we look at what we call a criterion model. And that's basically their grade level standards. Where are they at in meeting grade level standards? So if you think about it, in February, we were about, like you said, about halfway through the year, but we'd only had about 10 weeks. So what they do for growth is they look at the median growth. So the middle students. So if I have this group of students, they look at all the scores and they find the score, the growth score that's right in the middle. So that's that green line. So this is an example. So in this example, let's say it's district-wide. The middle student in all the districts made 62% growth. So from diagnostic 1 to diagnostic 2, they made 62% growth. What we need to keep in mind is that every single student starts at their own baseline. So they grow from where they start. So if I'm going to use a 5th grade example, a 5th grader at diagnostic 1, their baseline was maybe mid 4th grade. So when you look at their growth, it's going to be from that baseline. So they're not all starting in the same place. Think of the runners on a track that are all like spread out differently. That's kind of how this is. Everybody starts in a different place. So we're looking at median growth. That student, that made 62% growth, we have to look at the individual student to know where they started. That makes sense. So they could have started in 5th grade and made tons of growth and now be at the 6th grade level. They could have started in 4th grade and they've just caught up with their peers. So we dig deeper to get that information. So what you're going to see is district level, but all the sites are digging a little bit deeper than that to get their information. So what should we expect? What growth should we expect? We worked with our iReady reps, and based on 10 weeks of instruction between the first diagnostic and the second, a student should make about 33% growth if they were just on their regular target growth. What we would expect them to make from just coming to school every day, doing what they need to do, they would make 33% growth. And then that average would follow. The class should make 33% growth. The district should make 33% growth. So here is what we did in Newman. So we looked at reading. And if you look at the purple, that's what NCLUSD did. And if you look at the gold, that is where our target was. So our target was, as a district, for our median, our middle student, to make 33% growth. And we did that. We actually made 35. So, and in math, we made exactly 33%. So as far as growth goes, our students made a good amount of growth in 10 weeks. Now you have to remember, half the students made more growth, right. Half the students, made less. So that's what our growth looks like. So that kind of gives you some background for looking at these 2 charts here. This is only K-8 data. They do not have growth data for the high school. So we looked at high school data more on an individual level at the site. So if you're looking at through K through 8th, our growth there shows that we made about 35% in reading. Now, if you go to the right side where the red yellow and green are, that's our criterion reference. That's the number, the percent of students who are basically early on grade level or mid or above grade level. So we have about 37, sorry, I've written down here, 37% of our students have met basically are where they need to be as far as their progress towards standards in their grade level as a district. And then we look at the yellow, those are the students that are 1 grade level below, then 2 grade level below, and then 3 grade levels below. So what we want to see is an increase in the green and a decrease in the red.
And she has noted there where we were at diagnostic.
Yes, and I'll show you another slide where you can actually see comparison between the two. So that was reading, and I can come back to these if you have questions. This is math. So again, math, we actually made our typical growth. We were 33%. Our criterion referenced growth, basically our progress towards standards was 17% in math. And then you can see our red and our yellow. This is where you can see the comparison. So diagnostic 1 is on the bottom. So we started off with about 20% of our kids meeting the criterion that was set on for diagnostic 1 at the beginning of the year. And now we're up to about 35% of our kids meeting. Oh, sorry, I can't need my class. 25% of our kids meeting standards. I really can't add. I promise. So I do want you to see though that the red also is decreasing. So we're increasing our green and decreasing our red. And now remember, that's 10 weeks. That's measuring from February, believe late October to early February, with Christmas in between there. And then math, we've increased our green 16% from 9%. Now on math, our red actually decreased also. So we are looking at increasing green and decreasing red in that 10-week period of time. Now, is it enough? Is it fast enough? We don't know yet. We're working on that. That's what they're digging into. What areas do we actually need to support students in? So for our next steps, the sites, I shouldn't say will, they already have. Literally, they were dying to get their data. So the sites will review the data with teachers and then develop a plan for support and intervention. That's the whole idea. This is not about teachers. This test is not about teachers. This test is about students and how we support them in improving our instruction and their outcomes. So it isn't a judgment about what anybody's doing in their classroom. It's all about support for kids and making good decisions for how we move them forward. So that's what the sites are working on right now. SBAC, our window is March 28th to April 14th. So from the February to the March timeline, it was shorter than we would have liked it. But again, we started late. We didn't give that first diagnostic in August, September, but next year we will. And then we will give a third diagnostic in May to kind of see how we end the year. Just because we have the SBAC doesn't mean teaching ends. We want to see at the end of the year, all that growth, what our growth was. And then at any point, you guys can call a board workshop if you want to dig a little bit deeper into this data, look at the site level, the grade level data. We can do that, accommodate that, and we can have give you more information if you'd like. So this was district data.
Diagnostic 3 is important because it's what teachers will use at the start of the year to see where their students ended up. So it'll give them that snapshot as they walk in day 1 of the class as to where I need to focus instruction. So it's not just about predicting the SBAC, it's also about prepping the teachers for next year and their classes.
And one thing I would say about the company itself is we call and they come. We can actually have them attend the board workshop if you'd like to hear more background about the company and the data and why we're using this particular assessment. We had a YOLO workshop where we got a lot more information. They have dug in, they send us resources. So if we have questions, they answer them. And I think that's really important for our administrators and our teachers.
And the idea on the board workshop,
Go ahead.
If the board is interested, we can have iReady come in and take you through the data reading training. So it won't lead to you having an account because obviously there's student data that outside of a board meeting, you really wouldn't have privileged to. But what it would do is maybe give you the knowledge of what questions you might want to ask about the data in these data talks. And they'll take you through a Sandlot set of data and show how it digs down and what type of data you can get. I'd be happy to set that up. Pretty sure iReady would come in and run that for us. They're really invested in us fully implementing this.
Now, if you have a second grader and they're basically working on reading in the fourth month, they're going to test them from that fourth month up. So say they make 33%, but you could also have another second grader that might only be at the second month. Eventually you're going to fill in the spaces, say the phonics or whatever that they don't know, or the comprehension that they haven't been able to do. So we can build on it and get them on level or beyond.
So something at a board workshop that we could show you is what they have. They have a target growth, which is the typical growth a student should make in a year, but they also assign a stretch growth to students, which is the growth that a lot of students need to make to close the gap. So we look at both. That's something I would think that we could dig a little bit more into at a board workshop if you wanted to see what that looked like. But every single student, every single teacher could see every student in their class, their typical growth and their stretch growth. And then teachers can make decisions about intervention groups and how much maybe small group instruction or after school tutoring at the secondary, what would be needed to support that student in making their stretch growth. So there's a lot of, they gave us some really good information at our last YOLO meeting on the stretch growth and nationwide, what most students, typically, how many students would typically meet a stretch growth. But it's good information for a teacher because I may take me 2 years for a student to meet their stretch growth, which is why that May assessment, like Mr. Posey said, is so important. If a student is 2 years behind, I may not be able to get them caught up in 9 months, but I can get them on what they call a path to proficiency. Yes, that's what iReady calls it.
When we reach the part that always bothered me when my students left, they leave in May, June, and then you've got 2 months. Do we give them kind of almost like a workbook, but not really a workbook, on things that they can do over the summer, like reading the cereal boxes? Or
I think most teachers try to encourage students to do some summer work. And I know high school kids, some of them actually have to do summer work.
Right.
But I do think that most teachers try to leave parents with some ideas for summer work. Yes. Yeah.
Well, and I'm hoping, at least for the next couple of years, while we have ESSER money, we're not going to send it home to the parents, but we're going to pick that up.
Right. We're already summer school.
Summer program.
We have
this looks like, I'm looking at 33% that didn't move and going, well, if you're 2-3 years behind and you're a fifth grader, you've got 7 years to do 10 years work.
One of the things
I think the point to remember to keep in mind, I know as we're here tonight, a lot of stuff about mass celebrating the lowering of COVID, but if we said we were going to make typical growth this school year coming off of this distance learning, that we would have taken that deal and walked away. Yes, absolutely. So the fact that our median hit typical growth wasn't without tons of intervention. And anecdotally, I sat at some tables with some teachers, typical, destructionist attitude. They scroll down to their worst achieving kid and go, oh my gosh, they skipped the screen that 100+% growth. It didn't celebrate that, right? Scroll down, how come I'm not reaching these kids? Because that's what teachers do. They want to save everybody. I appreciate that. But we have to stop and take that second to say, even if we only got to typical growth, job well done. Because this year that would have been, at the beginning of the year, we said, yes, if everybody makes typical growth, we're happy coming out of distance learning, coming out of async learning even before that. And so, as we calibrate back, we need to get the students back onto that track of typical growth and then accelerate.
One of the things I'd just like to share, and this came from a teacher, is that the teachers can now celebrate growth. A lot of assessments, it's just you made it, you didn't make it. So there was a little boy in second grade that struggles and he's probably at least 2 years behind. And he made the second most growth in his classroom. So the teacher celebrated that, gave him some books. He wanted to check out chapter books in the library. He was just so excited about that he made so much growth. He wasn't reading at grade level, but he must have worked really hard to make the growth he did. So I think that teachers now can celebrate growth, and we have to look at both, don't get me wrong, But kids who are making that effort, just like in AVID, it's kind of that mentality that they're improving, they're working on what they need to work on. And that's what we need to kind of celebrate, because that stays with them from second grade all the way to high school. Other than, well, you didn't, you're red. You're in the red. Sorry, you're in the red. That kid is still in the red, but he made so much growth that we need to celebrate that. So I think that, that's kind of a change in just how we look at things sometimes with our students.
So if there is a desire for a board workshop, we can contact iReady, set some dates up, and get back with Ms. Conforte to set that up with what works for everybody. Is that something the board's interested in? Okay.
Number 6, BB 9320, meetings and notices. And Vern, I think this has come up because of the discussion that we had over the last, when we talked.
Yeah, if we have special meetings, that we were to talk about.
Correct.
Every time we have a special meeting, sometimes it's necessary. The superintendent and the cabinet up here and teachers, even the gentlemen in the back room, can't go about their business of helping kids. I know, trust me, I've been in this business 30-something years. I know the definitions of what a regular special emergency meeting is for, what they're intended for. I just saw indications of us starting to get into a micromanagement kind of a phase here. And I just want to make sure that we're clear about when and why we do meetings.
Yeah, we have a paper that's in our packet, and plus it was received, and the last one I thought was needed for all of us to come together so that we could do it. And it was like when we had our one just the other day, it was a workshop that worked out real
well. I understand. Workshops are probably better than a special meeting for some of the material that we do. You just talked about doing a workshop for the data ready or whatever.
Right.
And I think that's important information to get out. And if parents, teachers want to come to that, that's fine. I just want to make sure that we don't take up too much time of our school administrators in, needless workshops or whatever, when we can pass on information by email or look it up on a website or whatever. I just want to make sure that we stay on track with helping kids rather than creating, opportunities for us to talk.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, thank you. It's not, oops, sorry about that. Okay. First reading AR 6112, kindergarten transitional kindergarten, and E9270, conflict of interest. We need to.
We'll have an opportunity to approve that.
After we
E9270 will come back for approval later
on the 12th.
Yeah, the E9270 will come back to just for information. That's the conflict of interest, the form 700
that we moved to number 12.
And since we added an assistant superintendent, we need to reflect board policy that we have to have the conflict of interest for the assistant soup. And then under advice of counsel, we took out the need for administrative assistants to issue one, and we lowered the level of scrutiny for accounts payable because they don't make the decisions in purchasing things. They weren't required to be at the highest level of scrutiny. That comes for your approval, I think, on
number 12.
Is it 11? I think it's 11. Yeah. So.
Okay, thank you. Action items, consent calendar. The consent calendar items are routine in nature and usually do not require board discussion. Individual items may be removed by board members and presented for discussion and separate action. The consent calendar will be adopted by a roll call vote. Mr. Bazar?
You need a motion?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
A second?
No, I'm sorry. Can I amend that?
You don't need to amend it, but what item J is no longer in
It's already
Consent
yeah,
calendar.
Okay, all right.
Okay, yeah,
all right.
good.
Okay. So Tim made motion second.
I'll second.
Mr. Bizarre,
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst,
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly,
Aye.
Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye, passes 5-0. Approve second term budget report. We need Mrs. Mendoza.
Yes, good evening. While waiting for my presentation to load. I just want to say I'm so excited for all the good news that we're hearing, because as we sit and crunch all the numbers, we do have a purpose, and it's to support what the sites are doing. So congratulations to everybody who's been working so hard. Second interim covers from July 1st through the end of January and all the activities within that time span. And when I plan to do this report, we take a lot of things into consideration. We put a packet together for your board backup, kind of going over the information that we have. Federal and state one-time funding is still a big part of the budget for this year and the next couple of years. Attendance and ADA and how we're funded. This is going to change. There are many scenarios that we're running, but right now we're using still 1920. ADA, which is a little bit higher than where we're sitting right now. There is going to be a new methodology, and they haven't quite ironed that out completely, but there will be a couple of different options on how we calculate ADA, and they'll let us use the higher of those. Our STIRS on behalf, which is basically a paper entry, and it's a calculation that the state gives us, is about 1.7 million, which increases the need for our economic uncertainty by about $137,000. So there's no revenue, there's no expenditure, but we have to book it as such. And then LCFF is done for the year. Our census counts were finalized. Everything was certified through CalPADS. And we've started our educational partner engagement meetings that we will have to do for the LCAP. We've had several of those already, and we have a board going with all the ideas on it. Cash flow is not as much of an issue this year as it has been before. There are no apportionment deferrals that are planned. They didn't have any this year, and we're not planning any for next year. So at second interim, we also are starting budget development for next year. So things that we take into consideration. Running the LCFF calendar, the calculator, which is changing a little bit. We don't have the new calculator that we will use for next year. So these calculations are kind of the best guess estimate that we can do right now until that new calculator comes out. And I believe that's coming in May. ADA calculation isn't final for the out years because we don't know what that new formula is going to be. We're going to wait and see on enrollment with opening up an additional TK classroom, that we expect there to be a little bump there. And then the lottery allocations are the same in the out years. Our categorical programs, we kind of just figure them if there's a COLA applied, if there's not a COLA applied, and what we've done historically. And then for staffing, looking at the staffing, looking at actual salaries, looking at what the step and column is going to be. What are we replacing if we know retirements that we know of and other vacancies. Trying to think. I think we're probably okay. So then with staffing also comes statutory costs, looking at PERS and STIRS and all the other parts that go into that, and the health benefits, that costs. What are our collective bargaining agreements? Have we settled? Have we not settled? How are we going to estimate those? And then looking at curriculum adoptions, we have one curriculum adoption next year. We have a spreadsheet with all of our software licenses that when they are renewed, so we can budget those things out. So it's very methodical in all the different things. And then there's some one-time purchases that we don't want to project out if we bought something big this year and we're not going to do that next year, we might want to make sure that we back those out. For special education, there is going to be some additional funding next year. They're looking at increasing the base level. We don't have that exact number yet, but we are looking at an addition of 2 FTEs per resource for next year due to caseloads. We look every fall at our regionalized services to see if there's anything that we can take back and do in-house, either better or more cost effectively. And then we make our adjustments for our fee-for-service programs that we provide. We provide ED programs for Patterson students. So we look at the cost of those programs. So then we look at capital expenditures for anything over $5,000 for facility projects. And we look at what ongoing things every year. Matt and I look at flooring replacement, vehicle replacement, furniture, things like that. That does not look like what it's supposed to look like. Okay, so our revenue, basically our revenue, it fluctuates a little bit during the year. It's not from the original budget, I want to say it's gone up about $8 million. Most of that's federal revenue. We recognize the CARES Act, additional CARES Act and additional ESSER funding after the budget was adopted. So that's where the biggest increase in funding. It's always going to fluctuate a little bit because you have different taxes, you have different ADA fluctuations. And so there's always a little bit of that fluctuation. But the biggest at this time is about $8 million of federal revenue that we looked at. Yes. Oh, okay, good. Okay. So the expenditure summary, as more money comes in, we're able to budget for different things. And especially with the timelines of the one-time money, you have to look at spending timelines. Some things have an expiration date. So that's why our expenditures went from 46 million to 52 million because of things that we had been planning to do, but we had to wait to implement until the funding showed up. The biggest change, I think, was just some equipment that we bought, technology that we were able to purchase instead of waiting until next year. So the multi-year projection, looking at next year and the following year, you're going to see the reserve kind of growing a little bit, and that's very typical of one-time funding, where you can't spend it all the first year, and then it looks like then the next couple of years you're going to be spending it down. So if you look at the restricted reserve, particularly next year, it goes from about 1.4 million, and the following year is 570. That's due to spending all that money down that we have to by the end of 2024. So on the horizon, nothing in the governor's budget said anything about any PERS or STIRS relief for next year. So it's looking like STIRS contribution is going to go to 19.1% next year. It's currently at 16.92. So it's a $21,800 increase per $1 million of pensionable salary. So on $18 million of pensionable salaries, that's about $395,000 of increase just for that increase in STIRS. So when you look at the impact that has on negotiations and our ability to bargain, it really is a consideration that has to be taken. PERS is looking to go from 22.91 to 26% next year. It's a huge jump. So it's $32,000 per million. And so that's about 232,000. Those are on this year's salary levels. That's not even looking at next year's salary levels. And then the following year, it goes to 27, and eventually, I believe it's almost 28% is where it is on the projection. There is no cap on CalPERS in their statute. They can just keep increasing it all day long. And so we were really still pushing for the lobbying groups are still really advocating for money to go to pension relief. So the perspective for next year, which is what we call the budget years next year. The multi-year projection is strong for the next 2 years because we have the one-time money, we have, the economy looks to be strong. But most of that one-time funding is going to be gone at the end of 24. Some will have another year or so, but the great bulk of it is gone. So that one-time funding means a temporary increase to the fund balance, and then that will come down. And then the focus on the LCAP that we're developing this year, the third year, will be prioritizing what we're going to do ongoing to avoid what they're calling the fiscal cliff. Because once those dollars go back and we go back to a $45 million budget and everybody's used to having a $55 million budget, it's going to be a wake-up call.
And this is where it's really important that we make effective use of those monies. Because if we can show to our legislatures, these made a difference, they're more liable to stay on for your 4, your 5, your 6. But if it's like same old, they're more likely to go, okay, we can cut that money.
And yeah, I think that's one of the things that we've heard over and over is that if we don't show that, if people show that they squandered this opportunity, we will never see an opportunity like this again. I haven't ever seen an opportunity like this in my career. I will not see another one. Next year, things that we're planning that will be a big impact on the budget next year is the expansion of TK and the enrollment that will go, I believe, till February. It's expanded to February next year that they can enroll. Universal school meals, which means every child eats free, and will be back funded by the state. So we're really looking forward to that opportunity. Basically, it kind of extends what we're doing now, but makes it so that every child is eligible for the full reimbursement, not a tiered level. Changes to the LCFF and ADA calculations, which we're waiting to see what that's going to look like. And then the reserve cap will be triggered because of statewide, at state level deposits into their reserve account. So that means that we cannot show more than a 10% reserve in our own budget. So we'll be coming back at the end of when we close our books in September with a resolution to designate any dollars over that amount. The board will designate a specific purpose for those, and it will take board action to undo that. And then we have the Oristema High School construction that's getting underway, and then the Von Renner pre-construction, which is underway. Happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Aye. Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. And accept independent auditors report.
Ms. Conforti, if you'd be okay with the board, if we move to item 5.
Yeah, that's what I was just
Great.
saying.
And then
And we're going to move mainly so that our students can go home. Number 5 up to number 3, and it's approved board resolution number 21-22/08, Mental Health Awareness Month. May I have a motion?
It would be my honor to approve the board resolution number 21-22/08, Mental Health Awareness Month.
And may I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Passed 5-0. We will now recognize Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes.
Thank you. And students, you just sat through a very probably dry presentation that we have to do, but if you wish to go home, we welcome you. Thank you very much for all your hard work. Okay, thank you. You have homework to do.
Yeah.
Thank you. Accept independent auditors report from Edie Bailey.
In your packet, you had the audit report to review. Everything came out very well last year. There was one finding because of the level of federal funding, they're auditing all of the CARES Act and all of the other ESSER money very closely. We did miss, and then when we say we, missed one accounting entry at the end of the year. I should have booked a receivable and I didn't. So they had to find that as a finding. There is a corrective action plan in place and it will not be repeated. This audit was used for all of the credit ratings for the bond issuance that was very successfully passed last year. Going to close next week. So it didn't have a negative impact. So thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Mr. Bizarre? Aye. Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Pass 5-0. Approve board resolution number 21-22/07, declaration of rural district. Mr. Posey, would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, by declaring that we are a rural district, which we fall under the definition of, it exempts us from the state law requiring a change to an 8:30 start time. Still gives us the option should we wish to do that, but it removes the requirement.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve board resolution number 21-22/07, declaration of rural district?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. 5-0. Number 6, approval of updated NCLUSD COVID-19 prevention plan.
So we're working with our insurance group to get this plan most update to the latest emergency temporary standards set forth by the CDC. Of note of this change is the highly recommended versus mandated mask. There are some sections that haven't quite caught up. I think we went through 10 drafts of this on Friday as we kept calling and saying, hey, this says we're looking through the ETSs and the plan, and they weren't quite marrying up. So we'll continue to work with them to get this plan. We'll probably see it again. But for right now, the big change is it officially moves us to a highly recommended mask wearing in a K-12 classroom instead of the previous required wearing.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the approval of the updated NCLUSD COVID-19 prevention plan?
I'll make the motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye. It's passed 5-0. Approval of A through G grant plan.
So moved.
What, Mrs. Beck?
Oh, I thought we did a presentation last week and
Figured
it's
it.
basically we're funding our AVID professional development and the plan for AVID. Yep.
Okay. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bizarre? Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes 5-0. Accept Oristonville High School pool bid from Harris Construction.
So we opened the bids for the pool project. Mr. Huff from Huff Construction was here, made sure everything was in order. The bids had the appropriate documentation.
Who is it?
Tim Huff.
Tim Huff,
Are they there here or?
TPH.
All right. I'll be nice then.
So when we would put it out to bid, we had 9 alternates so that we could see what the price was for everything and kind of pick what we're going to do. The 3 alternates that we're recommending rejecting is replacing the asphalt with concrete base. I talked to some people who build some pretty important tennis courts, and they recommend the asphalt base for the betterment of the knees running on it. You don't play on the base. You get 12 layers of top coat over it. And they said if you have good soil compaction, which we will, because we'll be tearing it out and rebuilding it, you're not going to notice much of a difference in terms of longevity, the difference between 15 and 20 years, basically. Not worth the $200,000 cost by all accounts. Artwork and logo. Mr. Conforti and I toured our art department. I'm confident we can find some in-house artists to help with a mural at the high school. And it would be a nice project for them for under the $30,000 bid. And the big ticket item that's going to have to come off, and I've talked to the city manager about this, it was $950,000 for 2 additional courts at Lions Park. And that's a lot of money for 2 tennis courts. So it probably needs to be looked at as a separate project. The city can handle that as it goes down. But he agreed that was just, we weren't going to share our costs that high for 2 courts. So the total with the alternates we put in, which includes a timing scoreboard, a starting system, a judge's platform, pace clock, tennis court lighting, powder coating some stuff around some highly corrosive chemical, rooms that would be smart to powder coat there. And then they get the windscreens up is $8.2 million, $1,407. That's what we're asking you to approve tonight.
We got a couple of questions, but I will still be nice. Have someone checked out this company's references and
they come
financially solvent?
Yeah, they put up the required 10% bond. That was, and we've worked with them before. The general contract.
I went through a very bad experience accepting not me, fortunately, accepting a low bid back in the 80s. It was way lower than the other competitors, and they ended up going bankrupt halfway through the project. And we actually had windows repossessed right out of school walls and all that. So as long as we've done our due diligence in the company, because we do have to hire our own construction inspector manager for all this, then let's do it.
Yeah, this is a local known general contractor, and we knew most of the subcontractors, and there's really only a couple people who build the size of swimming pools in the state. So
we've used Mr. Huff before for other things over the years.
And we've
For the
used
architect.
we've used Harris before as well.
Excuse me?
We've used Harris Builders as well.
Right.
They built the press box.
Oh. Okay. May I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bazar? Aye. Mrs. Hurst? Aye. Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Approve TPH Architects for architectural services for Von Renner Elementary Multipurpose Room.
this is the fee for the TPH Architects, Tim Huff Architects, in the amount of $551,000 so they can start designing the plans for the multipurpose room at Von Renner.
May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
May I have a second?
I second it.
Mr. Bazar? Aye. Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye, 5-0. Approve Sodexo contract. Do we? I know we had all the information. Do we have somebody speaking?
Sorry. So it's time to approve the food service contracts for outside consultants. We went out to bid and Sodexo came in at the lowest price. We've been very happy with them in the past year. Also, great year to use a contract because, as you know, food prices are in flux. Not our problem anymore. Sorry, Sodexo, but it's not our problem anymore. We approved the contract. So we recommend approving.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ruth. Mr. Bazar? Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. For 11, we're going to make a notation, right?
Yeah, so this is a resolution that refers to who gets covered under conflicts of interest. And so I move that we approve resolution E 92070, our conflict of interest, subject to changes in the list that was attached in the background, including removing the administrative assistant and adding the assistant superintendent to require Form 700s.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
I just moved it.
Oh, yeah, that's
Sorry.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly? Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye. It's 5-0. Future agenda items will be Administrative Professionals Day.
We have Jay.
Excuse me?
We have item
Oh, we
12.
do. Number 12, which I moved. Okay. Let me find
Give me
my-
just a second to finish typing.
Oh, am I going too fast for your?
The way I type, yes, you're going too fast. It's not your speed, it's mine. I didn't catch who was the second on the last.
Second.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Snyder.
This is the item 12 is the job titles. And I move that we approve the attached list of employment and employment changes with the change that
Temporary, right here. Teacher on special assignment.
yes, that it's by reference by name, correct?
Yes.
That Sharon Fantasia's position be teacher on special assignment, study hall teacher.
And that's fine with that. May I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Mr. Bizarre? Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye. It's passed 5-0. Okay. Next are Administrative Professionals Day. What day is that? Do you have the date? No? Okay, I'll find out later.
It's the last Wednesday of April.
Okay.
That would be the 27th.
Okay. And School Nurses Day is, and then we have Classified Employee Week, Day of the Teacher. There is a reception for that, and developer fee justification are all on the next agenda. And Mr. Posey, would you like to speak?
Thank you. First, I'd like to, as you approved item 12, congratulate Heather Vargas and Lupe Robles, who are now our coordinators of elementary and secondary education.
And Tim.
I think Heather's already been doing that job this year and appreciate her work. And we're looking forward to working with Lupe at the district office level. Very impressed with her work at Barrington. And thank you so much for taking on that role. Also like to congratulate Anita Palacios, our new principal of YOLO. I told the story to the board, but they got their promotions within 2 days of each other. And then on my calendar was to visit Barrington for a instructional tour. And I realized we just took their leadership away. So I was like, great, good planning. But coming to us from Barrington's learning director, very excited about her vision for YOLO and making growth at YOLO and bringing us the middle school that we want. So thank you so much and congratulations. And so this month, I do need to go backtrack from last board meeting. I failed to mention a reason why we changed the calendar that you'd approved from what was at the committee level and to the approval. I needed to make sure that was clear. So the calendar you approved for the next school year reduced the number of district-wide collaboration days for the middle school and the high school. And the reason being is some time ago, we went to that block schedule where they have collaboration every other day more often built into their schedule. And we found that we weren't utilizing those district collaboration days at a level that warranted the early release. And when you early release on a block schedule, you're inadequately taking time away from a Monday to a Tuesday. So it kind of messes up a little bit of the student's experience. So we did reduce it to the amount we felt we needed because the collaboration happens during the teacher calendar. We do have working with our labor partners to make sure that we address any concerns or effects they have on that. And I think we have that scheduled for sometime next week, I think next Wednesday. Yeah. Oh, this Wednesday, that's right. So that's the reasoning for that. I do have a reminder to the board that your public filing timeframe to run for school board is July 18th through August 12th. So 2 of you are up for re-election, July 18th through August 12th. I have an obligation to tell you that in a public meeting. I just did. I also like it. As of last Thursday, Stanislaus County has joined the low level of COVID transmission as a community. Yeah, seriously, because that doesn't go without the work of the school districts, all of us in the county and the community. And, you know, it's been an interesting almost 2 years to the day of when we first went to distance learning.
Yeah. It's interesting to note that after 2 years, we're working on our plan.
Yeah. Well, it just means it's low. It hasn't gone away.
But we are still far ahead of the county, the state, and the federal government. So we're doing good.
So I was very happy to see it go to low. Mask wearing still strongly recommended. So that's point my finger when I say that, strongly recommended. I got to see Percy Jackson Lightning Thief at the dinner theater opening night. A great time. The fun that the actors were having on stage came out into the crowd. It was just that good. I mean, you could tell the students were really having a good time. They did a great job. And I think the OHS theater department, because it was really a fun evening. And the tri-tip was phenomenal, of course. And then also Read Across America. Somehow I got assigned a 5th grade history textbook to our story to read. And being a former history teacher, I think I bored the poor kids to death, but it was fun. And it was very informative. It was a fun time. I appreciate everybody who joined us across the district in reading to our kids. It was a real good time. That's my report.
Hey, Mrs. Hurst? Oh, I messed it up a little bit.
You had to mess with us. Okay, Read Across America Day. I got to enjoy that at Hunt. And I enjoyed it so much that the principal had to come get me out of the classroom. I told the kids I was in trouble. Got to enjoy 2 celebrations. One was for classified staff and one was for the students, and the one upcoming for faculty. What a spread. It was gorgeous. It was just nice and very, very nice days. Percy Jackson was great. It's right up my alley. So we were in the front row. So yes, those students were like right there and they were great. I really appreciate some of the things that we passed tonight. Number 1, the pool, so I can get in there in the senior aerobics in a while. And we had passed the May as being the mental health month. I really appreciated that. And I really want to say that the AVID, Mr. Pruitt was going to take me over to Alt Ed at one point and get me a high school diploma because I had dropped out of high school. And then after 14 years, I went back and I got my master's degree eventually. And one of the people that's helping you out was one of my students, Miss Blankenship. So with what I went through, I actually got to teach her and now she's here. So it's very exciting. And I'm really looking forward to things that are coming up for us soon, graduations and everything.
Mr. Snodderly?
I have nothing else to add.
Yes. Mr. Bizarre?
Oh, I don't have much. I was just going to say, we've just finished another quarter. It looks like, I mean, you can see the end of the school year. It's right there. And, it's been a tough year, tough several years, but I think things are actually getting back to normal. And I'm optimistic. Kids that I talk to seem to be really enjoying themselves. So just one more quarter, and then we'll have a summer break. That's all.
Alexia, would you like to say anything? Or? Okay, Mr. Wallace?
I'm still typing. Mine I can remember and I can type later though. That's easier than the ones that I have to get down at the same time. Avid, I'm just so delighted to see. That was something that I've just always felt that those of us in this room have a commitment to step up for kids. Or a government agency, we step up for kids whose parents can't do it for them. And getting into college and moving that ahead, it's just something that has so much nuance to it. I had the advantage of having a college educated parents and it sure made my life a lot easier. Well, we need to do that for the kids that are sitting there with all that potential, but aren't moving on because there's nobody there that's got that individual knowledge to help them out. So I'm so delighted to see us doing that as a group. The celebrations are great and all that. Mrs. Conforti and I are going politicking this week. Meeting with Senator Caballero and Assemblyman Gray because so much of what we get just gets handed to us by the state. So it's really important that we reach out and let them know how things are going and getting ready for my trip to Washington. I'm starting to have that stuff. So we'll be doing the same thing at federal level. Thank you.
I'm going in your suitcase. I really enjoyed the theater production. I mean, every year, I don't think I've missed a year yet. It's something that just excites me to see our students. They're just so much fun to watch. Even when when they're fooling around, it's really good. I got to read Across America. I got to be in the first grade in Bonita, and you didn't have to pull me out this time, but I also wasn't able to sit on the floor either. So that's one. And I read The Silly Goose, and it has a mirror in it. If you want to read it, it's so much fun. And then I also got to visit YOLO and the high school. And when we were talking about the artwork for the pool and that, our students can do far better and save the money. I just love when I walk around to the high school and that, even though they're taller than me and everything. And I got to go into YOLO. YOLO frightens me to death. I've never been in a junior high. I never went to junior high. I went to grade school and high school. So it was fun to see the young adults working and our teachers working with them. And it still frightens me. But thank you for everything that we've done. And I'm glad that this COVID's over and that we can go back to being normal and everything. So thank you. And Nurse Bernice, welcome back. You get to have Nurses Week Day again. We feed well. And we also have the Day of the Teacher, the activity, right? Isn't it this week? May?
March 22nd.
Okay. I thought it was March 27th.
That's not Day of the Teacher. That's our Teacher of the Year.
That's a 4
Our
o'clock.
Teacher of the
Oh, that's it.
Teacher of the Year celebration.
Teacher of the Year.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Day of the Teachers in May, or Teacher Appreciation.
I blew it. Okay, well.
You're good. We're okay.
I'd like to adjourn this meeting and thank you, everybody, for spending the night and listening to all of us talk. It's 8:52, 8:48.